Awesome. So for our next segment, we're going to bring out our Ontario FTC lead FTA, Jamie Sin, to talk about using the scoring system.
So, if you watched my presentation at kickoff, you will have seen a very similar presentation, almost literally exact. This is due to the fact that nothing has changed since then. We are going to go through the same sort of flow with the FTC portal login. Anyone who has done the scrimmage also has already seen these. So when you get the link to go and log into FTC Cloud, you will see this same login page. You will either be asked to register an account or one will be provided for you. Likely you'll be having to sign in with first, so it links to your team properly. If you go to the next slide, the main page after you land in, you can see the teams. You won't see any regions. The region is just for administration being able to test through it. So you'll see one team, two teams, whatever teams you're associated with in that little list. Clicking on one team, I'll bring you to the next slide. We'll show you your current sponsors listed. You can edit this as if you would like, or anything to bring up whether or not you have title sponsors, your team name, whatever else. It will also bring up your team location. This is important because we have our qualifiers all within Ontario, and that maintains that you're competing against only Ontario teams. On the next slide, you are able to invite other members. So this is inviting the person that you want to be doing the scorekeeping during a match, for starting the match, stopping the match, the other person that you'd like to have doing refereeing, or whoever else in your team list. It's generally recommended that at least one of these people, in addition to yourself, are adults. This is all sent out to the lead mentor, just to ensure that you're able to access all this information regardless of another student needing a phone. On the next slide, you have the match test area. So we can choose two types of matches when we're running a match. You are either choosing like a regular test match, or you're choosing a recorded match. Now, you only have a certain number of matches that you can play that are recorded. You also have to decide this in advance. So if you mess up in a match that is recorded, unfortunately, that is your score for that match. On the next slide, the web dashboard view is shown. So on the left-hand side is what shows if you select the main menu, and on the right-hand side is what shows if you selected the audience display. There's going to be a general requirement of running the audience display on some sort of computer that runs an accessible size screen, just because you want to be able to see the timer as well as hear the game sounds. So on the left-hand side, you have the test pre-match setup button. So that means you're going to say, okay, set the screen to be in a certain way, reset the scores expected on the screen, as well as just set everything to what it should be at the start of a match. The preview will show the preview of two teams competing, or in this case, just one because it's a remote event. The randomized button needs to be pressed only after the drive team is ready and has had their hands off the robot. After that randomized button, no one can touch the robot other than an FTA. We're going to get a little bit more into that later on about what you can and can't do. The show match button will show the match ready screen, which is the next page. On that slide, you'll be able to see the expected competitors in this match. Congrats, it's only your team. On the next slide is the preview match screen. So this is right before you hit 0 and go. So when you hit this, or before you hit go, you'd see a preview on the screen of what the audience display looks like. On the left-hand side is one alliance, the right-hand side is the other alliance, usually, but now it's set up into autonomous and driver controlled. This way you can track, for the driver's perspective, how many are being recorded at that time. You don't necessarily have to track scores live, but it is recommended just due to efficiency and remembering a match as it happened. On the next slide is what is shown after the randomize button is shown. So you have to put the number of rings specified, as well as it shows the target goal. On the next slide, this will show you what the autonomous data entry screen looks like. These are buttons like plus and minus, so you can, in theory, do this on a phone or a tablet. During competition in-person events, we'll be using tablets to score this. So that does work. It's quite effective. All you need to do is be able to access the IP address of the computer running the scoring, or access, sorry, the web dashboard. On the next slide is the driver controlled period. It is very similar, just it has now a few more things, since you can, you're able to do certain tasks in autonomous versus driver controlled, and it scores them separately. On the next slide, you have the oopsie tab. So maybe at the end of the match, you realize, oh, I put in one too many rings, or I put one too few rings, or they moved to a spot that they shouldn't have, and we said that they scored correctly. All of this allows you to, at the last minute before you submit the match, say, okay, make sure you don't make any wrong inputs. You can check your score, you can double check your input and say, okay, this is ready. Then at the end of that, you can submit it and it will be ready. On the next page, we have the remote events. You will see any that you are registered for. For this case, there's only one, just from the testing we had done before. On the next slide, after selecting a specific event, you can now say, okay, play matches. Now this is where it actually counts. There are no matches played as of yet, so there's no score to show about who's played, whatnot. So once you have a match recorded, the next slide will update to the current score and standings that your team has. Right under the number of matches played, it will tell you your ranking against other teams in that event. It will tell you your ranking points. This is calculated based upon certain things of your score. It will say your best scores of different sections, as well as your high score, just for quick analysis and seeing information. The play matches and open display links work the exact same as in test match. They will open the play match, and then the other one is the audience display. They don't have to be on the same computer, but they are recommended to be. The enter offline matches button is a little bit tricky. You need to score using the offline matches scoring sheet that Mickey will talk about in the future as a nice, easy reffing thing. There is potentially a little bit more information with that. If you are planning on using these offline scoring sheets, make sure you take a reach out and poke Dave.